What if everything you thought you knew about Jim Jones turned out to be a lie? Mama Jones has finally opened up, and what she's revealing is both shocking and heartbreaking. She's not just airing out family issues, she's exposing something far more serious. For years, people have watched Jim's life unravel. The public feuds, the drama, the career stumbles. It all looked like the result of bad decisions. But according to Mama Jones, there's a deeper story. She believes that those closest to Jim, people he trusted completely, were actually working against him. For a long time, Chrissy and Cam'ron have been part of the conversation whenever things went wrong for Jim. But this time, it's not just speculation. Mama Jones is connecting the dots, and the picture she paints isn't pretty. She says Jim didn't just make a few mistakes. He was being pushed toward failure by people who pretended to support him. Chrissy has always stirred strong reactions from fans and the media. Her relationship with Jim has been rocky, passionate, and public. But behind closed doors, was something more happening? Was she playing a bigger role in the collapse of Jim's world than anyone realized? And then there's Camron, a respected name in hip-hop, someone with his own legacy. But according to Mama Jones, his loyalty was not as solid as people thought. She claims he had his own plans, and Jim's success didn't exactly fit into them. Mama Jones isn't speaking out for attention. She says she watched all of this unfold, how the people Jim trusted slowly chipped away at everything he had built. She describes it as a careful plan, not a series of random issues. Every move Chrissy and Camron made seemed small at first, but over time, the damage added up. Jim's music, his businesses, even his relationships, everything started to fall apart. She remembers when things started to feel off. Jim would come home and talk about growing tension with Camron. They weren't seeing eye to eye anymore. Then Chrissy started bringing it up constantly, always pointing out the problems between them, like she wanted to make things worse. Mama Jones began to see how Chrissy was trying to control everything around Jim, including who he stayed close with. Chrissy, she says, didn't want Jim to be who he truly was. She wanted him to be what she thought he should be, her version of the perfect man. But in the process, she was changing him, breaking down the person he used to be. That control didn't just affect his relationship with her, it spread to his friendships, his business decisions, and even his sense of identity. And then there was Camron. Mama Jones says he wasn't always like this. He used to be loyal, used to be someone Jim could count on. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Camron's support turned into distance, and eventually, silence. Mama Jones believes he was carefully manipulating things from the background, pushing Chrissy in certain directions, creating tension where there didn't need to be any. She even believes Camron had a goal: to knock Jim out of the way and take his place in some form. Whether it was personal jealousy, competition, or something else, she's convinced it wasn't an accident. Jim's empire didn't fall apart overnight. It was chipped away by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Mama Jones says she started noticing small changes. Quiet arguments, awkward silences, moments where Jim looked unsure of who he could trust. And slowly, the cracks became clear. Jim, once confident and respected in his field, began to withdraw. His music changed, his public image started to fade, and all the while, Chrissy and Camron stayed close, acting like nothing was wrong. But Mama Jones was paying attention. She says Chrissy's influence wasn't just about love or support, it was about control. And Camron's distance wasn't random. It was calculated. These weren't just issues between friends and lovers. This was something much more serious. A slow, steady campaign to take everything Jim had worked for. She admits it was hard to believe at first. After all, Jim had built his career with people he trusted. But the more she looked back, the more sense it made. Every time Jim tried to take control of his life again, something pulled him back down. Every time he started to succeed, drama would follow, and those closest to him were always in the middle of it. Now that she's speaking out, she wants people to understand that Jim's story isn't just another celebrity downfall. It's a lesson in trust, in loyalty, and in how quickly things can fall apart when the wrong people are in your inner circle. Jim didn't fall on his own. He was pushed. Mama Jones's words are heavy, filled with pain but also clarity. She isn't guessing. She lived through it. She watched her son go from being a strong, influential figure to someone constantly battling setbacks, and now she's ready to talk about it, not to stir drama, but to finally bring the truth into the truth she's sharing isn't easy to accept. It's uncomfortable. It's painful, but it's real. Chrissy and Camron, the two people who seem to be closest to Jim, may have played the biggest roles in his downfall. And if what Mama Jones says is true, this wasn't just about personal conflict. It was a long-running plan to tear down a man from the inside out. This is just the beginning of the story. Mama Jones says there's more to tell. More moments, more choices, more manipulation. And the deeper we go, the more we start to see how fragile trust really is, especially when power, money, and fame are involved. What started as cracks in a friendship and tension in a relationship ended up destroying an entire legacy. Now that the truth is starting to come out, it's time to look at everything differently. Jim Jones wasn't just unlucky. He was targeted, and the people who did it weren't strangers. They were family. While he was caught up in the moment, completely unaware, they were scheming behind his back. He didn't see what was happening because he was too distracted by the world they built around him. It was a setup, and the truth was hidden in plain sight. What happened wasn't just about a love affair. It ran much deeper. It was about a friendship that had grown toxic over time, filled with jealousy, resentment, and quiet sabotage. Mama Jones opened up about how things began to fall apart between Camron and Jim. The bond they once shared had turned sour. Old grudges came back, and fresh betrayals added fuel to the fire. Camron slowly started to pull away, both emotionally and physically. Chrissy, according to Mama Jones, played a big part in all this. She worked behind the scenes to create distance between Jim and the people who genuinely cared about him, his real friends, his true supporters. And Jim, wrapped up in his life, didn't even see it happening. She was calling the shots without him realizing it. Her voice was filled with emotion as Mama Jones recalled how Jim found out everything last. He had no idea that the people closest to him were testing him, manipulating him, and setting traps. No one stepped in to warn him. No one pointed out what was going on. When the truth finally hit, it hit hard. Mama Jones said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. This wasn't just about Jim as her son. It was about everything they had worked for as a family, everything that was falling apart because of betrayal. She could see Jim changing. He wasn't the same person anymore. The loyalty, the honesty, the realness, everything that made him who he was, started to disappear. Loyalty, she said, is a powerful thing, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a weakness. And that's exactly what happened. Jim's loyalty was taken for granted, twisted, and used against him. He began to lose himself in the lies. The person she saw now wasn't the same son she had raised. The fame, the success, none of that was the real problem. It was the company he kept. The wrong people had gotten close, and they had hidden their intentions well. Jim trusted them, and they used that against him. Mama Jones stayed composed, but the pain in her voice was clear. She had watched her son be taken advantage of, not by strangers, but by people he called family and friends. As time passed, the weight of everything became unbearable. Mama Jones knew the truth needed to come out. Not just for Jim's sake, but for everyone who had been pulled into the mess. This wasn't about trying to get attention or take revenge. She wanted to set the record straight. Jim deserved to know what had been going on behind his back, and the world deserved to see the real faces of Chrissy and Cam'ron. They thought they could break him and move on without consequences, but they had forgotten one thing. Family doesn't back down. Mama Jones made it clear. This wasn't over. She refused to stay silent any longer. Not for Jim, not for herself, and not for the family. Now that the lies had started to unravel, what followed was complete chaos. Jim's life didn't just hit a bump, it fell apart. This wasn't just about two people arguing or a dramatic breakup. It was the slow collapse of something Jim had poured years of hard work into. And when the people you trust the most turn out to be the ones pulling you down, there's almost nothing more painful. Mama Jones said the emotional toll hit Jim in places the public never saw. His music began to suffer, not because his talent had faded or because tastes had changed, but because the people closest to him were tearing him down. Camron and Chrissy, she claimed, were secretly working to push him out of the spotlight, and their efforts were working. Then came the legal trouble. As the truth started to spill, legal threats began to fly. Chrissy and Camron even threatened to sue Jim, not over personal arguments or broken trust, but as part of a larger plan to drain his resources. Mama Jones said it was all designed to trap Jim in legal issues, sap his money, and keep him distracted. There was a time Jim thought about fighting back legally. He considered filing a major lawsuit that would have exposed everything. How Chrissy and Camron had been scheming, the lies they told, the deals they made in secret, but he hesitated. Jim still believed there was good in them, that maybe things weren't as bad as they seemed. That delay cost him. Mama Jones didn't hesitate. As a mother, she said, she didn't have the option to pretend. She saw things clearly, and wanted the world to see it too. That lawsuit could have forced Camron to face some serious questions about what role he played in all of it. But Jim waited too long, and in that time, everything started falling apart. His money vanished. His businesses failed. His brand crashed. While Jim was busy dealing with personal drama, Chrissy and Camron were making deals behind closed doors, taking pieces of his success for themselves. Mama Jones painted a grim picture. Jim went from being at the top to having nothing, not because he failed, but because the people around him helped bring him down. It wasn't just financial loss, it was total devastation. He lost relationships, trust, stability. And all this happened while the world watched. Social media turned into a battlefield. Rumors spread like wildfire, and suddenly, Everyone had something to say. Some people supported Jim, believing he had been betrayed. Others stood by Chrissy and Cam'ron, convinced they were innocent. The internet lit up with drama, theories, and judgment. Mama Jones said Chrissy and Cam'ron weren't just passive characters in this drama. They were feeding the media their side of the story, twisting facts, blaming Jim, and shaping the narrative to make him look like the problem. The public turned on Jim fast. People began questioning everything about him: his decisions, his actions, even his character. He went from being seen as a respected artist to someone who couldn't hold his life together. Mama Jones wasn't going to let that be the final word. She insisted that this wasn't a case of bad luck or poor decisions. It was a targeted effort to take Jim down. The worst part? Chrissy and Cam'ron didn't just want to hurt him. They wanted to take his place. They wanted to destroy what he built and rise from the mess as the winners. So, where does that leave Jim Jones? After all this, is there any chance he can rebuild? Can he recover from the destruction left behind by two people he once trusted? With everything, Mama Jones has told her side. But whether Jim finds his way back from this, or if it's already too late, is a question only time can answer. One thing is certain: the damage wasn't random. It was planned, and it came from within.